Thank you so much for joining us. I have been super fortunate to watch you grow this into such an inspirational and fun company. How did you get started with Robo 3D?
Yeah, I mean, Robo started literally on like any true startup. We started on a dining room table and, in a small apartment in San Diego. And, didn't really know at the time that we were building a business. We were just kind of just tinkering with 3D printing. And my business partner at the time was actually trying to make 3D printed prosthetics. It led to us making our own 3D printer. Which, we started building this 3D printer, watching YouTube videos, joining groups and forums, and we got our first 3D printer together. And really our goal when we were building it was to create a affordable, easy to use solution so that the masses could take advantage of this really cool technology. And, we ended up launching it on Kickstarter after we built our first machine. And, crazily at the time, we were like, if we sell 20 units, we'll be ecstatic.
Yeah.
We were like, we can't even make 20 units in our apartment. So if we do that, we'll have a lot of work on our hands. And so we ended up, in our Kickstarter campaign selling over 1,100 units, which, took me to live in China and lots of other things, which is crazy. So I have all sorts of stories around that.
So did you have a background in STEM, or how you one day just wanted to build 3D printers?
Yeah, I didn't really have, I don't know you before that company really, but before that I owned a electronics repair company. And so I had always been into electronics. I'd always been like nerdy in that regard, but I didn't have a background in a STEM career at all. I mean, this is pretty close to out of college. I started the electronics repair company. And then after that I did Robo. So the 3D printer company. So I've always been into electronics, but never a background, no career in engineering, nothing like that. I learned a lot on the way, but I think that's how, kids are learning outside of the classroom as well.
Yeah, that's wild. So then if you started with wanting to make prosthetics, or your partner did, how did you break into K-12?
Yeah, so we started only selling 3D printing technology to consumers. Mm-hmm. So it was literally guys that had, the man caves and females that had like little maker spaces, whatever it may be in their home or their garage, that they wanted to use this technology to build things. And, we started going to education shows because we started hearing that schools were interested in 3D printing technology. This is how long I've been in the game. I've been in the game almost a decade now. It was like when 3D printers were just starting in schools.
You're aging us.
I know. And so I met people in schools and they're like, we really like 3D printing. We want to bring it into the classroom. And, so for us, we sort of started going down this journey of how do we integrate this technology into schools like the easiest possible way. Mm-hmm. And so, that's how I started selling it education. And then we made education our full focus.
Yeah.
As 3D printing technology became, there was like hundreds and hundreds of competitors at one point. So we're just like, let's focus on education. Let's create a really great solution and let's do what we can in that market.
And so what did that look like, focusing on education? Like, what does your product offer in STEM?
Yeah. So what we found in schools, for teachers, you were a teacher, right?
Yeah.
They have a lot on their plate, right? So trying to get them to bring a 3D printer into their classroom was a big endeavor.
Yeah.
And there's always teachers that are going to be like the ones that adopt it and become kind of the leaders in bringing that technology in. But we wanted to allow all teachers from all different levels of experience with technology to be able to use the 3D printer. So it was really about, for us, it was coming up with a program. So we ended up acquiring a curriculum company and we built this like integrated system. So we have teachers, literally, you can take the 3D printer and you can print educational manipulatives and do hands-on activities with our curriculum. It's called mystemkids.com. So it's just really easy program for them to be able to do what they're already doing. They're not reinventing the wheel. They're doing what they're already doing, but we're allowing them to do it with STEM tools and bring technology into the classroom really easily.
That's amazing. And so, I mean, going back 2 years, right? You've built this incredible company, you're inspiring educators, and then boom, COVID happens. Yeah. Kids weren't in the classroom anymore. So what did that do for you guys? How did you adapt?
Yeah, there's been, I would say the STEM space, I've been in the STEM space for a while now and have lots of friends that started STEM companies and It's been tough. I'm not going to lie. The
Yeah.
pandemic, and I know companies that in the STEM space, lots of them that didn't end up making it through the pandemic just because there wasn't a lot. I mean, when you think of STEM tools, you think of hands-on learning, right?
Yes.
So there's not a lot of hands-on learning experiences during a pandemic when no one wants to touch anything that someone else has touched. When kids aren't in the classroom, when everyone's wearing masks, it's very tough from a collaboration standpoint to be able to pull that off with STEM tools. So we had to get really creative. We took that mystemkits.com platform that we built and we created virtual STEM activities for all the teachers that were already in there. So you could actually, what you would normally do with a educational, like a 3D printed manipulative, right? Like say a catapult, for example, you could do in a virtual space. So we created these virtual activities. The teacher could share that link with all their students, and their students at home could launch virtual catapults and do the same activity they would with the lesson plans we have.
That's so cool. I'll link that for everyone that wants to check it out. Does it have, like, how teacher friendly is this? Like, does it have lesson plans to go with it, talking points for it? Because I am not a STEM person, but I love teaching it because I love to learn too. So how would that be?
Yeah, there's literally no possible thing in the entire world that exists that makes 3D printing easier in the classroom. Okay.
Yeah.
And I'm not trying to I mean, obviously I'm biased and, I'm part of like building that, but I've seen so many schools struggle with this technology. Most of it ends up collecting dust in the back of the classroom. My brother once told me, this is actually really kind of inspired. My brother doesn't even really know this, but he asked me a question one time, like, what's the incentive for teachers using your 3D printers? Like they already have enough going on. Like what's really their incentive? And when you break it down to someone that doesn't like sell an education or doesn't work with schools or anything like that, he made me think, God, really? Like, I mean, I just think their incentive is like the benefits for the students, right? They have a heart. They want to help their students like become better in this world and become creative learners and things like that. And so, but at the end of the day, you got to think very practical. So my goal was just, I don't even want a teacher to have to learn how to use the 3D printer. Okay.
Okay.
I want it to sit there. I want them to be able to connect it into their platform. Okay. Which is what my STEM Kits does. And I want them just to filter by grade level, filter by subject, and just find fun, cool, interactive kits. Okay. Yeah. All they have to do is click print on the models. We've already created the models. We've already created the lesson plans. They just click print, send it to the printer. And then they download whatever lesson plan they want to use. And it's step-by-step guided. That's so amazing. It's very, very simple.
That sounds like a game changer.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
It's been cool. We have thousands and thousands of teachers using it. It's fun. I love it. I've gotten so many teachers that, and we'll probably share a little bit about this, but I've gotten so many teachers that have been scared of using this technology or didn't have the time to use it. And by being able to go in there and just print interactive things that they can do in math class and science class and history class and language arts, whatever it may be. Yeah. That has been a game changer for them. And they've gotten really excited about using the technology. I think it starts with the teachers, right? Yeah. We have to get the teachers excited about using this stuff. And if we don't get the teachers excited about it, the learning benefits aren't going to funnel down to the students. And so that's really important for me. Yeah.
Yeah. We had a printer at our school and everyone was afraid of it because no one knew what to do with it. So this sounds, my STEM kits, that sounds like something I could use.
Yeah, that typically happens. I see that in a lot of schools. They either don't unbox them or they just end up collecting dust or they end up in a closet. And so the cool thing with the platform too is it works with 75 different brands of 3D printers. So you can, kind of use it as your 3D printer management system and a way to print standards aligned content across NGSS and state standards as well. So it's good.
Yeah. So I want to shift a little bit because we're talking about, introducing this to teachers and getting them really used to it and loving it. Is that why you have your van? Is that why you use your van to travel the world and show everyone 3D printers?
Yeah, I don't know, your listeners probably don't know what the van is, but I developed during the pandemic an idea, and this was really coming out of the pandemic. I was like, hey, once we can go back to whatever this new normal is, I want to be able to, because I know STEM learning has been lacking over the past 2 years, rightfully so, with everything going on. So I wanted a way to just like get in front of educators and say, hey, we have a really cool program. Let us show you how to do it. Let us show you how it's going to be easy for your teachers. And so we started developing this van, and it's called the Mission to Mars van. We call it the Mimeo STEM Mobile, but either of those names. And it's a way we're just going around. I'm literally going from California to all the way to New York, 35 different stops, I think now.
Wild.
And just meeting with educators and showing them our STEM solutions in a fun and exciting way, right? So letting them demo the products and see the products, but making it a little more interactive and fun and tying it to our curriculum so they go, okay, I see how this can be used.
Yeah. Yeah. So have you met any teachers that you're like, this is my why, this is why I'm doing this? Have you had that experience?
Yeah. I have a lot of stories of incredible teachers, you know, and I think about that a lot just with them being in the education system the way it's set up now and how difficult it is to get time to kind of explore using tools like this. It's tough, right? But there's always a lot of teachers out there that are incredibly engaged with this type of technology, especially 3D printing. And so my favorite story, honestly, and it will always be my favorite story unless something ends up trumping it at the end of the day, but we have a teacher, her name is Shelly, and I met her at the ISTE show back in 2016.
Oh, wow.
And she came up to me and she was just like a ball of energy, right? I could tell this teacher had a lot of fun. She was a 5th grade teacher. She was in a small town in Montana called Big Fork, which you probably have never heard of.
No.
Population of about 5,000, so tiny. And she said, I have this small class, this 5th grade class. I want, like, they're all small town mentality. Like, they think they're going to live in their town, work in their town. I want them to think outside of this small town mentality. I want to think that they can make a difference in the world. And so we got her the 3D printer. She started going through the curriculum. She had no idea what she was doing starting out. And this is what I love about it. Started doing the kind of like the kits that we already have where you just print and teach. And then she was at home. This is what the power of this type of technology and other STEM technology is. She's at home and she saw a documentary about how coral reefs around the world were dying. And she said, what if we could fix that in our 5th grade class? And so it started with going into the class, and they use a program called Tinkercad, which is like a 3D modeling program. So it's a way you can design something and then print it on the 3D printer. Cool. And so they started designing just coral reefs in general. So like, hey, we're going to go look at coral and we're going to design them. Keep in mind, it's a 5th grade class, so let's start simple. So they started designing coral in their Tinkercad 3D modeling software. They were printing it, and then they built like a coral wall in their classroom. And then she said, I'm going to reach out to some like coral reef scientists, marine biologists on LinkedIn and see if I can connect with them and have the kids do like a Q&A session with them. So, and long story short, they ended up connecting with this marine biologist. The kids start asking him questions. They start coming up with a plan to develop like an artificial coral reef structure. And it's made out of like an algae-based 3D printing material that can be planted in the ocean. So coral can grow and live on it. And it's just one of those things where I have goosebumps every time I talk about it, because it's one of those things where you go, okay, this is a 5th grade class in a small town that got inspired by this technology that came up with this incredibly creative way to use it and solve a world problem. Like how incredible, how awesome is that to be a part of it?
I have goosebumps. Oh my gosh.
Yeah. This is why I love it. I mean, this is the type of stuff that will naturally happen if we put this type of technology in schools the right way and give them the right resources. And so, the more we have, lots of those stories where it's happened that way and it's turned into something incredible.
See, innovation is so important. We need to adapt to technology because it's the future,
100%. Yeah. And I mean, anyone that is listening or going to listen, if you haven't seen the documentary Most Likely to Succeed, I highly recommend watching it. There's tons of stuff. It's a documentary about kind of like the history of education, how it started like back in the roots with Horace Mann, who's like the founder of education system in America. And it talks about like the progression of education, where we're at now. And then it goes into, it uses a school called High Tech High, which you may have heard of.
No.
They're based in San Diego, actually, and kind of how their education system is different than the traditional education system in America. And the reason how it's different, mainly high level, is that they don't have any like traditional standards curriculum that they follow. It's sort of an open-ended curriculum program.
Yeah.
And it's based on semester-long projects, not like you get a grade for every test you take, right? It's like you're building something. Yeah, building something for the semester, project based, and then you present it on a kind of like an innovation or I don't know what the day is actually called, but some type of exhibitor day. So it's really cool. And it's just a crazy documentary. I mean, we all know, like I haven't been in the classroom personally, but I've talked and been influenced by so many educators around the country, even around the world.
Yeah.
And you know the rigors of the system, right?
Yeah.
And so it's hard to break through that.
Yeah.
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 So they do that pretty well. And the documentary kind of breaks down those rigors and why the system is the way it is and how it's been tough to innovate in the system and how it's been relatively similar for over 100 years.
Yeah. Yeah. Have you, other than teachers just not really knowing how to use your product, have you had any other big challenges with this?
I mean, I think the big challenge is really just time.
Yeah.
That's been the hardest thing. I mean, the pandemic has been very difficult too, but just because of time also, but a lot of it comes down to time. Like, you know, I hear that over and over and over again. Teachers are like, we just don't have time, or like, you know, the curriculum specialists are like, if this is going to take time, it's going to be very difficult. So, you know, I hope to see in the future of learning, like an educational system that allows for more time to allow teachers to bring in creativity type tools and that methodology into their curriculum, right? And into their classrooms.
Yeah.
Less rigor, more creativity, right?
Yeah. It's interesting to hear you talk about this because, as you said, you're not an educator and you actually weren't in education. So for someone to have such a passion for education, it's interesting to me because I meet a lot of people that have a passion for education, but they're in education. They taught for 20 years. Where do you think this passion comes from for you to be so passionate about the future of learning and changing the way the world learns?
Yeah, I think my passion comes from, a lot of it honestly comes from just seeing incredibly successful stories in schools and districts, right? So like seeing our technology go into schools, seeing them use it, create like unbelievable success stories. And then I go, wow, these students are actually like having a phenomenal experience.
Yeah.
And they're going to go off to create incredible things and maybe become the next innovators or entrepreneurs, whatever it may be. But their likelihood of success is going to go up because they've been exposed to this technology. And so that's something I really, really care about.
Yeah.
And that documentary, honestly, that documentary changed, I think, a lot of my trajectory on.
Say the name of it again. What's it called?
It's called Most Likely to Succeed.
Most Likely. Okay.
So I first saw that. Yeah, I saw that at a school event and I was like, oh my God, this is like what has kind of shaped us going into education and a lot of the direction we took with how we built our curriculum and all that, because I just started to realize like unfortunately, you know, in a lot of schools around the country, we're just not preparing our kids for the jobs of the future, right? We're preparing them for jobs that are like the dying jobs, the historic jobs. Mm-hmm. And so, you know, at the end of the day, we need to prepare them for future careers, STEM careers, which pay higher than, you know, any other career, and also prepare them for like their own careers, right? Freelancing, the gig economy. We need to prepare them for jobs that they can create for themselves. So that's really important. Yeah. And that's where like all that creativity and, you know, problem solving and all that stuff comes into hand.
Yeah. And I love that there's more than one way to learn problem solving. There's more than one way to learn anything in school, and no kids learn the same way. Everyone learns differently, and you are bringing that to the classroom.
So this is something this is a great point. I wanted to say this real quick because this reminds me of it. But what I really liked about creating a less rigorous education system, and I understand there's standards and I understand there's tests and all this stuff that, you know, students have to like standardized testing and all that. Yeah. But when you have a less rigorous system, you start to let students develop their natural roles in society. Okay.
Yes.
And that is incredible. Like there's a part in this documentary where the teacher kind of just comes in and brings a piece of paper, puts it on the table, and observes the room. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Just sees what happened. And what happens is like someone ends up getting up and like reading the paper and doing this stuff. That's our leader. Someone comes in, they're like starting to move the chairs around. Like he's saying, that's our coordinator, right? That's our implementer. So everyone starts to kind of develop their natural role. And that's just who they are based on growing up and their family history, their personal history. And so
don't
if
you
they
think
can
they'll
find their role
thrive more? Like in life, if you are in your natural role where you thrive best, I feel like your life will be so much more fulfilling.
100%. I mean, I think, some coordinators or implementers, whatever it may be, want to be leaders. And that's not necessarily, everyone wants to be the leader, right?
Yeah.
Or a lot of people do, but that might not be your role, right?
Right.
Which is totally fine. But if you get in your role and you do what you love, right? In your role, do what you love. It's like the perfect harmonization, if you will. And so I think you can do some incredible things as a person if you know that.
Yeah. And
so
if you're never exposed to these things in school, how are you going to know if you love it or not? Like if I never got to use a 3D printer, how would I know if I love STEM? Right?
That's another thing that I talk about or that we have in our curriculum is we tie it back to career connections, which is a super important thing for teachers to be telling their students.
Tell me more.
So so anytime you're doing a specific lesson in the curriculum, and this, I'm just talking about the curriculum because we have it in the curriculum, but like teachers can adopt this outside of the curriculum, but any lesson plan in there has a career connection component. So if they're doing a specific activity where they're using one of our STEM products and doing some like soil things with it, right? That might tie back to an ecologist, which is a STEM career. So if you see a student really gravitating towards that and going, like loving it and going really in depth and doing their experiments, hey, there's a career that doing exactly what you love to do as a student in the classroom. And so showcasing that career. Showcasing that career to them though is like really important because you want that kid. The earlier we get kids to think about a career that they're going to love and do for the rest of their life and enjoy, the better it's going to be for them to actually be successful beyond the classroom. So tying those back is really important. I think all teachers should be thinking about that when they're in the classroom. If they see Johnny or whoever it may be, that's like, this kid's really gravitating towards this, like give them an idea of the type of careers that, relate to that field that they're really enjoying and liking.
That's amazing. Have you gotten any student feedback from what you're doing?
I've spoken to a lot of classrooms and whatnot. Over the past 5-6 years, and I've taught classes on design and 3D modeling and helping kids kind of do that. And the one thing that I love so much is the amount of confidence building that a kid gets when they like. I just remember a specific kid in a program in San Diego that we went to, and I taught them how to do 3D modeling. And this kid, you can tell people's like demeanor, right? Really quickly. If you're self-aware, you can, and this kid you could tell just lacked a lot of confidence. Okay. Taught them how to do 3D modeling. He got really excited about it and he starts like designing and building things. And then, I left a 3D printer there. I came back to get it and he was showing me all the things he created, and going from like no confidence, designing something on my own, printing it, holding in my hand, that experience for students that I've seen over and over again, that's powerful. Like they become the next, I'm going super high level, but they become like the next inventor, the next Elon Musk, right? And so giving them that ability, I think will just help them look at the world differently. And that's something that is really important, is like allow them to solve a problem in a very small way, and then watch when they go out into the world and they start looking at things and going, why was it designed that way? Can I make it better? And you're just naturally going to get those problem solvers in life.
Oh my gosh. This is amazing. So if people want to find out more about you and Robo 3D, where can they find you?
Yeah, so everyone, I'm the director of STEM at Boxlight. So now our 3D printer company kind of got acquired or merged with them. So if you
that
just go
been?
to
Has
it's
that
good.
been
Yeah.
good?
Yeah, it's different. It's the first time that I worked for a company, but I enjoy it, and it's like a little bit of a kind of a breath of relief, especially during the pandemic. It happened right at the pandemic, so I can't imagine what those 2 years would have been like in terms of just surviving through that pandemic. But it's been good to kind of have their support and being able to do things like the STEM van and really growing the STEM product line that we have with our curriculum has been cool. So if you go to boxlight.com, there's a little STEM tab at the top. Just click that and you'll see all the STEM solutions. If you fill out something on any of the forms, it goes to me. So I'll get to see it, and hopefully I'll get to talk to someone.
Amazing. And where are you off to? You said you leave Sunday in your van. Where are you going?
So I'm driving it from Southern California to Northern California. We're starting in Northern California in Sacramento, Santa Rosa areas, and then I'm going all over the country. So if you search Mimeo STEM Mobile, or just go onto the Boxlight website, you'll see information about it. But there's a schedule on there. You'll see all the dates. And so I'll be all over the country for about 2.5 months. And then I end actually at ISTE. So my last
We'll be at ISTE, so I'll see you there.
So I'll be at ISTE with the STEM van. I'll probably be beat up by that point. Who knows?
Yeah.
Hopefully I'll still have it. It doesn't get stolen on the road or something. But the van will be in the booth. I'll have it all set up. We'll be doing demos on both sides of it. So it's going to be a lot of fun. It's got this we have an interactive touch panel on there. So you can you have 3 missions that you do, and each mission uses one of our STEM products. Mm-hmm. So it's fun. It's just once again, a way to kind of show teachers what can be done in the classroom in a really easy way.
Oh my gosh. Well, thank you so much. This has been amazing. I can't wait to watch the documentary.
Yeah, everyone should watch the documentary. It's really good. And I can't when I first saw it, it's really what inspired kind of my passion for education and wanting to help sort of change the future of learning. I know that's a monumental task, and a lot of why it hasn't changed so much. And I've seen a lot of leaps and bounds, I would say, over this past year, but a lot of why it hasn't changed is just because of the way the system was built. I mean, it's just tough to break through that mold. I just don't one more thing I want to say is what I gravitate towards too, and what makes me really upset, and I talk to teachers about this a lot, is that I don't like the depleting mentality for students where they start with 100% and they only go down from there. That's I don't know, for any student, right? That's very diminishing to them. I would rather them start with 0 and go up, or I'd rather them have some different form of learning that is more like submitting a project or presenting a project, whatever it may be, where it's based on sort of a lot of different factors and not just a data point, a score.
Totally. Especially little kids who are learning to figure out, that is what education should be. K through 5, you are learning how you learn, the best way you learn. There's no failing, a 10-year-old failing something. That makes no sense to me. I don't understand it.
And if they're failing, it should be as part of resilience to solve the problem, right?
Yes.
It shouldn't be here's your grade. Be better or do better. Right. Or study harder or memorize more. The other thing is every school. I'm talking about controversial things, but I think every test should be an open book test. Personally.
I just made a post about this, and the amount of people who are absolutely not.
Yeah.
When in your life can you not go and Google something or ask a friend?
There came a point when I was in school where they started letting us use calculators and things like that. We couldn't use TI-80 whatever for calculators.
Write your notes in it.
yeah, exactly. So when they allowed the TI-84 or whatever it was, TI-82, I was like, okay, they're starting to understand that we have access to these tools, so we should be able to use them to solve problems. I think the same thing about textbooks. I think the same thing about computers. Maybe not Googling things, but being able to find information is a skill set, right? That is an important skill set. So if we don't allow students to use the tools at their disposal to find information, then we're not really preparing them for the world they live in, right? Exactly. We're just preparing them to memorize things, which isn't an important skill set anymore.
Yeah, 100%. I know.
I'm with you on that.
Yeah, I know.
Full support.
It's hard because it's not just one person that's going to change the future of learning, but bringing to light some issues and the way that certain people are trying to make changes is all we can do right now, I think.
Do we have more time? I want to ask you something real quick.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm curious and we're talking about the future of learning, right?
Yeah.
I'm actually nervous for the future of the brick and mortar education system.
Yeah.
I don't know where it's going from here. I hear and see a lot of schools kind of struggling with teacher retention. I see them struggling with keeping students because a lot of post-pandemic, a lot of parents are bringing their school or their students to homeschooling. Mm-hmm. So it's like, I don't know. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, I definitely think things need to change, and things have needed to change for a while. But once the pandemic hit and people were home with their kids, they realized that things need to change.
Interesting.
Yeah. Because it's really out of sight, out of mind, I think, for a lot of people. So once education was brought home, they were like, oh, what is happening? Yeah,
that's good.
I don't know what the answer is for keeping, I mean, I know the ideal answer for keeping teachers, more respect, more pay, more support. But the overall system of having 30 kids in a classroom, learning math in the morning a certain way, learning language arts in the afternoon a certain way, and doing science and social studies twice a week, those days are gone. Like, we're not evolving education to how we live life every day.
I know. Yeah.
And I think big changes need to be made. And maybe that is having kids do online learning,
Yeah. And I've talked to you about this quite a bit because I'm a big believer in like focusing on, hard skills and soft skills that are really going to allow students to be successful outside of the classroom, right? It's a big focus of what I think about on a day-to-day basis. And so, yeah, I'm curious. It's amazing that the education system, the way it's set up, it's almost like if you look at it just from I don't know, if you look at it from like the rules of education and like teacher pay and the rigors of the system and all this stuff, it's amazing that it still is going as long as it has.
Yeah, and I think the only reason why it has is because people were just accepting it. But now that teachers are starting to leave and there's been this huge upturn, I think we'll start to see some changes because it has to.
It has to.
They can't keep having teachers quit and then who's going to teach the kids?
Yeah. It'll be, I don't know, it'll be interesting, I guess, to see how it plays out. But yeah, I agree. I think, the blessing and the curse, right, of the pandemic, obviously, was just in regards to the pandemic and kind of students losing a couple of years of specific types of learning and all that, and just, the pandemic itself. But I think the blessing at the end of it was like, we're going to have to make some changes in the system in order for this to work long term. And so, it's fast forwarded a lot of that stuff that probably would have taken another 10, 20 years or so to come around to.
I agree. And, I talked to a teacher from the Ron Clark Academy years ago. He was great. But what I found with talking to him is he has so much flexibility as a teacher to teach kids the way that they learn and not teach kids to just the curriculum. It's made him love his job again. Yep. And I think we need that across the country, Yeah,
I agree. I mean, I think a lot of it has to do too with universities. I think the way the system goes up into university, like if you ask students about school and parents about school, it's all about like, I want them to get into a good college, right? You hear that probably
about this too.
Yeah, it's probably like you hear more about like, I want them to get into a good college than I want them to be successful in the world. It's like, if they're younger, it's like, we need to get them into a good college, right?
Right.
And so, and the way the university level is set up, where it's like they focus so much on standardized testing and all this thing as criteria and factors to be able to get into our school, we have to abolish that. Like, they need to look at other things other than those data points as like the way you get in. And so I have been hearing that schools, like especially during the pandemic, colleges started looking at extracurricular activities, started doing like interview based activities in order to allow students to get into their university. And so I think that, like, if students submit resumes to the university and like put all the things that they've accomplished, and then the university like looks over those, I might be like thinking that might be too much time for them. I don't know, but I think that's the way. If that changes from a university level, I think a lot of things can funnel down and change in, you know, lower levels of education.
Totally. I mean, something has to change. College prepared me, I feel like, for nothing in the real world.
Oh, agreed.
Nothing.
Yeah, I learned more the first 3 years out of school just trying to figure out how to build my own business. And survive than I did in college and high school and all that stuff. I mean, it's incredible that only this is another thing why the career connection thing was so important, is like, it's incredible that only the last 2 years of the college system, you're really focusing on what you're going to do the rest of your life.
Right. And
that is unbelievable.
It's supposed to be that the reason why is because the first 2 years you take a wide variety of classes to figure out where your passion is, right?
Mm-hmm.
But that's not what's happening. It's a waste of time is what it's turned into. So they need to reformat things.
Yeah, I agree. I think you should go into college. I mean, undeclared majors and all this stuff, like, we got to have students picking a major.
Yeah.
You know, and focusing on that.
Yeah, don't go into college right after high school. You don't know what you want to do. Maybe you do. Then you can go. If you don't know what you want to do, take time for yourself, work a job, figure out who you are, and then go to college when you know what you want to do.
That's interesting. I've never even thought about it that way. I never thought like of a gap in between high school and college. I think that actually is a phenomenal idea.
Yeah, I did
that. You'll learn a lot.
Yeah, my mom pushed me into business school right out of college, and I hated it. I never failed a class until I got into the honors business program at Sac State, failed a class, and I was like, this is not for me. So then I quit, I moved away, I got a job, and I realized I wanted to teach, and I started to go to school for teaching, and I had like a 4.0 because I loved it. You know, take a break.
And then you can focus on going to college. Yeah, figure out who you are, go to college, focus on a skill that is you're actually going to enjoy and benefit from for the rest of your life, right? Yes. And build on and grow. So I don't know, we can talk about this for hours.
I know. I'm like, we are at time. Thank you so much. This has been amazing. I'll have to have you on again sometime soon, maybe after your road trip, and we can find out how it went and the awesome educators that you got to meet.
Yeah, I would love to. We'll chat about it. I'll be posting. I'm starting a little like TikTok thing for the STEM band. So it's I think it's called like the Mimeo. I think it's Mimeo STEM Mobile is the actual handle. But
we'll link it on everything. Yep.
Okay, cool. So follow it along. I'll be posting stuff on the journey, and hope to talk to you soon when I get back.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
All right.